Welcome to day 18 of rambling and wrenching, and also a little bit of a reckoning. Mainly just for myself. So, I started fixing up my old CX500 a few videos ago, and my idea is I really want to get this thing on the road while we're doing this series. I've got some really fun ideas to take you guys on a little moto adventure and share some experiences that this bike has taught me. And to do that, I'd really like the bike running to make that happen. So the first video, we made some really good progress, and since then, between family, work, and a couple odd jobs I've been able to pick up, I just haven't had the time that I've wanted to get back to it. And this is a trap that I fall into often with projects, which is I can't give it the time that I want to give it, so I'm just not going to give it any time at all, which is a huge failure because everything in life, including your life, is a marathon, not a sprint. I keep telling myself that over and over again. This is a mantra that I continually tell myself to be able to get done what I can get done in the time that I have. Basically, do what I can with what I got. That's a big thing that I'm always trying to tell myself. And so I would be a hypocrite if I wasn't living more by the things I keep telling myself and want to do. So we're going to do that today. I've got about 45 minutes, which sounds like a little bit of time, but it's really not, especially if I'm bringing you guys along. So we've got our handy dandy cardboard list. And on our cardboard list, there are a couple things that I think we can do. We've already added the gas conditioner, which is great, so I need to cross that off. But I think we can give it an oil change, and I think that we can get the spark plugs in. We might be able to pull the old timing unit. I'm not quite sure. But what we can do is get rid of excuses and get the marathon going of getting this bike on the road, because if I don't start carving out little pieces of time like this, it's never going to run. So let's kill the excuses and get started. How to live a good life doesn't necessarily come with a manual. So when things do have manuals, I really like to get them. Whether that is vehicles or whether that is other types of projects. And as you can see, this manual has been around the block with me a couple of times. And one thing that I really love about manuals is they become diaries. So I can get in and I can reference things like how much oil do I need to put in this thing if I'm going to change the filter. I've already circled it for myself. There it is right there. And so that's what we're going to do. 2.6 quarts of oil with a filter change. If you're doing your own oil changes at home, I highly recommend getting an oil change system like this. It's really nice. So this one actually has little wheels on it, so it's easy to move it around underneath vehicles, which is cool. It's got a catch and a strain, which is always great. It's got a drain here, and it's just compact enough that you can get it under or in or around most things. So it's really nice. One reason it's really nice to work on your own stuff and understand your own stuff is that the oil change on this, it requires a filter, it requires an O-ring, and it requires a crush washer for the actual oil plug. The guy that I went and got it from at Honda didn't know about the crush washer, so I would have wasted a lot of time going in and getting that if I hadn't known myself. Fun little mechanic tip while we're in the middle of this. While you're trying to remove an O-ring that's recessed inside of something like this oil filter cover, you don't want to get in and then pry against the edge because you can mess up that edge. You can bend it out, you can scratch it out. So what you want to do is you actually want to try to poke the actual gasket and then leverage that gasket up and out that way. Because you're already getting rid of this gasket, so putting a tear in it doesn't matter, and that will save the lip of the thing you're working on. So I know this to be a pretty slow oil drain. We're going to get these spark plugs popped in. Now, if you remember from the last time we had the CX500 in a video, the reason that we're working on it is because the timing module went out on it. So the timing's bad. It would get up to speed or RPMs. The timing would throw off. It would go all the way down. You'd have to go to 0 and then restart again for the timing to catch back up with itself. And that is why our spark plugs looked like this, because we were getting a bunch of weird detonation issues. Now, pro tip with working on anything in general, but especially older stuff, always save your old parts and either compare them at the counter or compare them to the new part before you throw them away. There is nothing like trying to put a square peg in a round hole because the parts house gave you the wrong part, but you think it's the right part and you're trying to make it work and it's never going to work. I've had it happen multiple times, and that's why I learned this lesson the hard way. So save your own parts and compare. I saved my own parts and I compared. These are the same. So I can now throw away my old spark plugs and use my new ones. Now, this is something that I only do on older machines, specifically just motorcycles, and I think it just makes me mainly just feel like a cool racer guy from back in the day. But I do gap all my spark plugs for my motorcycles, and that's a handy dandy piece of information that's in my book. And so these spark plugs are supposed to gap somewhere between 0.24 and 0.28. This was actually a little tight, so it's good that I was doing this because we were a little off. And I usually just take it right between the two. So I probably have it right around 0.26 or something like that. So my spark plug is gapped, which will give me the factory optimum gap of spark for ignition for the air and the fuel being mixed in the cylinders. That's another part of trying to come in and work on stuff when you don't have a lot of time, is then you start worrying about time and you start making silly mistakes that could cost you in the long run, and you don't get as much done. And I've learned these lessons over and over again, and I repeat them over and over again. And that's why I think, again, the big principle is to remember it's a marathon, not a sprint, and I just have to accept that I can use the time that I have to do the things that I can, and that will get the project farther along than not doing it at all. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. I do want to give past Zach a huge shout out here and give you all another reminder that when you're working on stuff and you're not sure when you can get back to it, to mark things the best that you can. Because I would have already forgot where these hoses go with the connections and everything that we had over here, because I was like, oh, I'll be back to it in a few days. And here we are, not back to it in a few days. So huge shout out to past Zach. Reminder, mark your stuff. When I'm doing an oil change on a normal running vehicle, specifically my motorcycles, but I also do this on my cars from time to time as well, I like to drain the oil into a clean container so that I can run a magnet along on the inside and see if I've got any weird engine wear. That'll tell you if there's any little bits. Same thing with checking the filter. It's just a good way to do it. This thing's been sitting for so long, I really don't want to keep running that oil through when I get this thing started. There might be some timing needs that I need to do. I'm going to have to idle this thing probably quite a bit before I can put any sort of miles on it. So I'm going to give it some fresh oil to be able to idle, to be able to go around the block a couple times. I will come back and I will do another oil change. With that oil change, which is going to collect a lot more inside the engine because it'll be warm, it'll have circulated, I will check to see if I've got any metal bits inside at that point. I won't change the filter, but I will change the oil. And reason number 6,552 that I love my little Hitchin Timber Pocket organizer is because I use it to keep crush washers in for different projects that I have. So I have the crush washer for this oil change right at the front of the wallet, and I've had that in there for the last week or so, ever since I went into town to get it, a couple weeks I guess, and I knew exactly where it was, right in my wallet, right on me, because I lose these things every single time. Now, because I don't know exactly how much oil came out, because again, I didn't run the engine, so I'm not just going to dump the amount of oil in that it says in the manual. I would never do that anyways. I always keep it a little shy and then run it and then double check it. We'll go ahead and check it. I'm not getting anything on my dipstick. So I'm going to go ahead and start with a quart and see where a quart puts us. Okay, so a quart put just a little bit on the end of that dipstick. So I feel confident with one more quart at least. Beauty. That right there, it kind of rolled up on me, but that right there is what we're looking for. So we've got it up on the dipstick and not too much. So it'll be a good place to start from when we're ready to start this engine. Now comes the other little temptation when you're working on a bigger project and you only have just a little bit of time to work on it. And that is, do you clean up the current mess and put things away because that's about all the time you have left? Or do you move on to the next thing and then just leave a mess for yourself and maybe get through the next thing? Because I'm using this video as a reckoning, we are going to get these things cleaned up and make sure that we're reset for the next time we have 45 minutes. Admittedly, my brain right now is telling me that I didn't get enough done. But I am also at a hard stop and out of time. So I got enough done for what I was able to get done. And that's really the big takeaway. Just a reminder, it's a marathon, not a sprint. We're one step closer to getting the Honda back on the road. I cannot wait to take you guys on a little adventure and share a couple stories with you. And it's just 45 minutes that I won't have to deal with the next round. We'll see you tomorrow.